What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Facebook Live by yours truly, JD Mitra. Today's topic is a little different than what I normally talk about, which is business. And first off, I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, long, prosperous New Year. And it's around this time of the year that sometimes I feel compelled to talk about something other than business. And that is spirituality. It's kind of like my other passion that I love. Hey, Cheyenne, what's going on, man? And I see Ananda watching. I see Joseph watching. So welcome, and we're going to talk some spirituality today. So I'm actually excited by the people that have come on because I feel like I've talked about spirituality with each one of you in my own individual way. And normally I talk business, but today, because of the holidays, I wanted to talk some spirituality. I actually think that with business and spirituality, they actually have a lot in common. They have a lot in common. Just to give you a couple of examples, in business, just like in life, we need to have faith. There's times in business where we doubt ourselves, whether we're in sales and we don't think another order is going to ever come through the books, or hey, Buchin Mamu, or we're somehow doubting ourselves, we're doubting our process. So I think in business, it's a lot about trusting the process and having faith, just like it is in life. Finding peace through adversity. That's one of the biggest things in business and in life. Being comfortable in the uncomfortable. So, just like in business and in life, there's going to be distractions, there's going to be curveballs, there's going to be things that you didn't intend to happen. And when they happen, you may or may not have an answer immediately, but you get to have your faith. Faith in a higher power, faith in the fact that everything is being done for you, that God, the universe, has a bigger plan for you than you have for yourself. And ultimately, it's about holding on to your vision, holding on to why you're here. What is your purpose? What is the purpose of being here? What's up, Kenny? And that's what I want to talk about. Today's talk topic is called spiritual amnesia. Spiritual amnesia is basically the fact that I think that we all inherently know that the world is working in our favor, that God has our best interest in mind, that we come from a higher power, a higher place. And we know that. We inherently know that. And yet, even though we know, we forget. And that's when we lose our faith. When we lose our faith, that's when we have a propensity to forget about the miracles that we've seen. And that's ultimately what we're going to talk about today at the end, is about how do we counteract that? How do we stop this spiritual amnesia, forgetting about the miracles, forgetting that the world is working for you, not against you. And that is something called the readiness to remember, or the readiness to be reminded, because that's the key, is we forget. So, it's about having the readiness to be reminded. So we've all seen miracles. Let's just acknowledge the fact that each and every one of us in our life has seen miracles happen. And it could be anything. It could be you or somebody that was perhaps saved from a car crash happening, like just coming within seconds of getting into an accident. Or maybe it was receiving a gift that maybe you didn't think that you deserved, like a new job offer, or getting approved on a home, whatever the case may be. Many different options, or getting a big client that maybe you didn't think that you were going to get. So we've all had things happen to us where we've definitely seen miracles. People potentially maybe getting cured from cancer, or thinking they had cancer and then realizing that they didn't. So we've all seen these miracles. So if we can acknowledge that we've all seen miracles, then why is it that we question God's plan? Why is it that we question the motives of the universe if we've all seen it? And if we ask ourselves truthfully, when do we doubt God's plan? When do we doubt the universe's plan? All the time. We're always doubting. So whenever we're stressed out, whenever we are worried or concerned about something, inherently we are not, in that moment, we are not trusting God. Because if we believe that everything is happening in our favor, and everything is happening in the favor of everybody, the benefit of everybody, then we should always, in theory, trust God, right? And we should always trust God, but we don't. We doubt it, and in moments we think that maybe we have a better plan than God has. And this is the spiritual amnesia that I'm talking about. And if you look at all the holy books, all the religious content that's out there, whether we're talking about the book of Exodus, the second book of the Torah, or the Bhagavad Gita, which is the holy scripture in Hinduism, or we talk about the Holy Bible, or we talk about Buddha leaving the palace, leaving the kingdom to go experience the suffering of the world. Every text, every religious text has the same exact message. If you look at it, the message is always the same. The message is keep the faith. 3 words, keep the faith. And, we can talk about the Israelites, for example. The book of Exodus was all about a mass deportation, a mass exit from Egypt, where the Israelites were told to go to Canaan, the promised land, and they leave, and of course the Pharaoh and the Egyptian army are going to attack them. And then what happens? Noah, presumably through God, parts the Red Sea, and all of the Israelites walk through the Red Sea. And then when the Pharaoh and the Egyptians try to do it, obviously they die and they plummet to their death. They drown to their death. And yet, only a couple of days later, the Israelites are complaining again to Moses and to Aaron and saying, have you brought us to the desert to die? Because they're dying of thirst and the sun is beating down on them. And they lost their faith. After seeing the Red Sea part and open up so that they can go through it, and then when the army tried to come and attack them and they tried to go through it, they drowned. A miracle witnessed right through their eyeballs, and yet just days later, going back to complaining and thinking that maybe we're not the chosen people, maybe we're not the chosen ones. So I think that's a big example. Or in the Bhagavad Gita, we see Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita where he's questioning Krishna over and over and over again. No matter how many miracles Krishna performs and Arjuna is witness to, over and over, Arjuna continues to question Krishna and his motives. In Jesus, we see it when he selects Mary Magdalene. And, people are asking, why her? She's a whore, she's a prostitute. And he has to say, he who is without sin, let he cast the first stone. Why does he have to say that? It's because of our lack of trust, our spiritual amnesia in that particular moment. So, it's not just, this is not to just bash the Israelites or to bash Arjuna or to bash the disciples of Jesus, because we all do that. We all inherently forget the miracles that we see all the time. We forget about it. And it's in our nature to forget. You can say it's in our nature to forget. And that's what today is about, is developing a muscle called the readiness to be reminded, the readiness to remember, the readiness to be reminded. And it raises a good point, which is, why do we forget? If we think about why do we forget the miracles, it's actually very much in our nature to forget. Think about, for example, a time in which, and we've all experienced this, where one of your grandparents told you the same story that you heard for like the 100th time, right? We've all been there where, they're like, the grandparents are like, hey, have I ever told you the story when? And we're like, yes. And instantly our consciousness goes to, I know this already. And we start to just kind of tune it out. We kind of start to, just like we might be reading through the Bible and we're reading through Psalms, and maybe we read that Psalm already, and we say, I know this already. And automatically there's almost this thing where I don't have to learn. There's this treatment of old material. There's it's like stuff that is old doesn't matter. And the only thing that we really worship is what is new. And that's what we're attracted to. That's why we go on Facebook. That's why we go on Instagram. That's why we want to know what Kim Kardashian is doing today. That's why we want to know what's going on in the news, on Fox, on CNN, on MSNBC, because it's all current, ongoing information. So we are interested, as a human people, we are interested and we worship what is novel. And life is more than a quest about novelty. It's not just about learning what's new. And it's not just about learning. I think inherently, we inherently know good from bad, right from wrong, what we're supposed to be doing, what's in alignment with our life purpose, why we're here. And yet it's not about knowing what to do. It's more about living it, keeping it alive, about resolving the spiritual amnesia and remembering the miracle of God, remembering why we are truly here. And when we can do that, we can live in peace because we trust the process. We trust what's going on in the universe. Even when we see circumstances that don't appear like they're lining up for us, we trust it because we trust in God. We trust in his plan. We trust in the plan for not just ourselves, but for everyone around us, that God's plan is for the betterment of everyone. God's plan is for the betterment of everyone. And we all inherently know this. And, rather than just chasing what's new, we get to remember some of these old stories, the stories. So next time when your grandparents tell you some story, I would recommend that you listen to it like you're listening to it for the first time. And that in itself is a muscle to develop. Instead of saying, I know this already, being able to listen to something that you've already heard, but listening to it from as if it was the first time you're hearing it. Because guess what? You are not the same person that you were the last time when you heard it. And the person who is speaking it, they are not the same person as they were the last time you heard it. Your relationship, your dynamic is not the same. So we get to respect and honor repetition, things that we hear over and over. We get to listen to it over and over and respect it, and not just worship what is new, because it's not about the knowing. It's about keeping things alive. It's about developing what I call the readiness to be reminded. That's where you can live a life of faith, is when you can always be reminded of your faith. You can always be reminded of the fact that miracles have happened. And when you can live a life of faith, when you can live a life where you're constantly reminded of the miracles that you've already witnessed, you can live a life of peace. You can live a life of joy. That's what's available to you on the other side. So that's the bottom line, is we need to be reminded of what we already know. We need to be reminded of what we already know. It's not that we don't know. The problem is that we've forgotten. And we get distracted. That's the truth of it, is we get distracted by things that are not in alignment with why we're here, things that have nothing to do with our potential, that have nothing to do with, creating the life that we want to create. And I think the biggest 4-word killer that we can ever say is, I know this already. When we say, I know this already, you're done. That's it. That's pretty much the end of learning, is when you say, I know this already, and it doesn't create space for a new moment to occur, for a new revelation, for a new lesson. So the key here is repetition. And the way that we do this, and we're going to get into the solution to spiritual amnesia, the way that we do this is through practice, through our morning practices. And I grew up in India as a Hindu, and one of the things that we do in Hinduism is we chant mantras. So, we chant a mantra 108 times, and, the mantra could be something that typically has to do with a particular deity. So in India, obviously, we have different gods, we have different deities that represent different areas of life. Give you an example, Ganesh, who is the remover of obstacles. Ganesh is the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. So Ganesh is the first one that's worshipped every morning in our Hindu rituals, in our Hindu practices. And I say this to you because, again, addressing spiritual amnesia, when you chant Om Gam Ganapati Namaha, just as an example, everyone's going to do their own thing. Everyone's going to do their own morning practice. I'm sharing with you what I do. Om Gam Ganapati Namaha 108 times, and you concentrate on Ganesh, and you look at Ganesh, or you envision Ganesh if you close your eyes. There's a lot of things that will resurrect and have you remember your faith and have you let go of this spiritual amnesia. For example, Ganesh has 4 hands. So what are the 4 hands? Ganesh has 4 hands, and they all have a different meaning. So in one hand, he has the axe in his hand. If you look at the statue of Ganesh, he has 4 hands. One of them has an axe in it. So what is the axe? The axe is to remind us to cut off all attachments. So we all have attachments as human beings. We have all these labels and classifications that we put on ourselves, as son, as husband, as father, as businessman, whatever your labels are. You have a series of labels. And it started when you were born, when you were given a social security number, when you were given a name, a birth certificate. You were already labeled. You were already cast into this world with a certain classification, and you've had to live up to that classification your entire life. And that creates pressure, that creates misery. It's a lack of freedom on some level. So when we chant Om Gam Ganapati Namaha, and we have that axe is to cut off all attachments, cut off all classifications of what you were told that you are, because you're so much more than that. And that's one of the ones that I try to bring within me when I'm chanting the mantra, is to let go of all my attachments, let go of everything that I think that I know, let go of everything that I've been told, that I've that I've learned through people telling me, and all these classifications and labels that have just basically strengthened the ego, the idea of separation. So that is one hand of Ganesh. The other hand of Ganesh has a bowl of fruit. And this is my favorite hand because he has a bowl of fruit in his hand. And basically, for me, that means that he is basically saying that the result is not in your hands. The result is not in your hands. The result is in my hands. So we have a plan, but then God has a bigger plan. And, we can fight it, we can resist it, or we can embrace it. We can embrace challenges. We can embrace adversity. We can embrace the good and what we perceive as the bad, and just say that there's a lesson to be learned. What is the lesson that I am supposed to learn here? What is it that I'm supposed to get out of this tragedy, this adversity, this challenge that God is presenting, the universe is presenting before me? So these are some of the hands of Ganesh. I mentioned the axe to cut off all attachments. I mentioned the bowl of fruit, which is in his hands, not in your hands. And there's a sense of relief with that you don't have to worry about the result. You just have to be committed to the work. So you've been brought here for a purpose. You've been brought here to do something. You inherently know what that is. And your job is to work that life purpose. That's it. But the result is not up to you. And in that, there is a certain level of freedom, knowing that, you know what, I'm here to do what it is that I'm here to do, but I'm not here to worry about the results. The results will come as they're supposed to come. The third hand of Ganesh, he's basically blessing you. We call it Ashirvad, where he's blessing you. And that is to say, again, instead of focusing on your problems, focus on him. Instead of focusing on what's not working, focus on God, on your prayer, on your faith, and let go of your sword. Lay your sword down and give him back the sword, and let him hold the sword. Let him have the power and work through him. Just ask God, work through me. Use me as you would have me be used. Have me encounter the people that I was meant to encounter. Have me say the things that you would have me say, and the message that you would have me give across to that human being, to that person. So again, there's a sense of freedom in knowing that God is at the wheel, not you. And we are just here to do our work. That's it, point blank, pure and simple. The fourth hand of Ganesh is the lotus flower. And in the lotus, we see that the lotus grows in mud. And so because the lotus grows in mud, it's to basically say that, you know what, through tragedy, through something that may not look so beautiful, look at how a beautiful thing can arise from that. And I think that's pretty profound. And, we see it in our life, where we see that through tragedy comes triumph. If you can look at areas of your life that have been tragic in nature, that there was a lesson for you to learn. Maybe you didn't see it in the moment, but maybe now in hindsight, you look back at it and you can see the lesson that you were supposed to learn, why you had to go through that. But here's the thing. We don't look at things looking forward. We look at things looking backwards. We can't look in retrospect forward. We can only look backwards. But what we can have now is the faith. And that's the key over here, is that we get to have faith. we get to believe that the world is working for us, and let go of the spiritual amnesia. Actually, find a morning practice, find some type of practice, whether it's going to church or, listening to mantras or reading religious books or whatever it is for you. For everyone, it's going to be something different. But that is the cure, ultimately, to spiritual amnesia, is to develop a muscle of having the readiness to remember. Because once again, it's not that we don't know, it's that we've forgotten. And it's in our nature to forget. It's not about beating ourselves up because we lose our faith. It's not about making ourselves wrong because we have forgotten and we don't trust in the process, maybe in a particular moment. The key here is that we get to accept that about ourselves, that we do forget. And now what's next? What's next is how do I remember? How do I remember? And, like I said, I think the morning is a very valuable time. It's when you get to set the tone, the context of the entire day. So before your feet touch the ground, when you wake up in the morning, tomorrow morning, maybe say a prayer to God. Be great. Give him a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God, for waking me up this morning. So many people didn't get a chance to wake up. So many people all around the world are suffering, and I want to thank you for all that you've done for my children, for my family. And thank you even for the adversity. I know that there's a lesson in every adversity you throw my way, with every curveball. I know that you're not destroying me, you're developing me. And that's the truth about it, is God is not destroying you, God is developing you. And it's for us to be able to see the lesson, for us not to lose our faith like the Israelites did in those moments, like the disciples of Jesus did, like Arjun did with Krishna, not to lose our faith, but to remember, to be reminded, to have that readiness to remember. So thank you. That's my talk for today. Spiritual amnesia. The cure to spiritual amnesia is having the readiness to remember, and we get the readiness to remember through our morning practices that we do, whether it's going to church or reading or whatever it is for you, meditation. And that's my message for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it had some value for you, and I hope that you're able to develop a practice that creates some sustainable joy in your life, some sustainable peace in your life, where you're able to really keep the faith and really live a life of peace and joy, and know that you are part of a much bigger plan. I'll end with just saying that each and every one of us has a life purpose. The goal of life is to figure out why you are here. What is your purpose here? And who are you here to benefit? I believe that your life purpose directly correlates to a population of people. So who benefits when you win? Who benefits because you existed? So this is JD Mitra signing off. Thank you. God bless you. The greatest days of your life lay ahead. I love you, and I'll see you at the top.